my god, oh my god, oh my god. Phase, telekinetic, cast length decreased. Tether range decreased. Total health regen decreased from... No, health regen duration from 2 to 5. Increased, okay. The blind duration to 2 seconds. Revenant now requires target arm, targetless sight of light. Basic damage reduced. 340 5%. Scaling reduced. Yes! 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 Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a patch note review video. I am Sylphin for version 41. Wraith, hero balance, and UI improvements. Thank God. So we first start off with a new emote for Wraith called Just Don't. Pretty funny, pretty good. Oh, I even forget his name. That this is after Elijah. Whatever. That's pretty good. That's gonna be pretty funny to see for sure. So hero balance card changes, guys. It's a little bit early for balance changes, but it's definitely needed. They really focused on Phase, Revenant, and Morigesh, as well as a variety of bug fixes and quality of life changes to Kallari, Wukong, and Dekker. There's more. They've changed Bounty Stalker, Portal Stone, and Tainted Magic to function more in line with the other card updates. They've also released some new skins here for Novaborn, Greystone, and for Instructor Feng Mao. They look absolutely fantastic here. I love the kind of Roman-esque sort of Thor theme for Novaborn, and then the Feng Mao just looks badass. So for some other things here, they corrected an issue which caused heroes sometimes not receive the appropriate card points. That's pretty big, and the red damage indicators now appropriately display all instances of damage taken from enemy heroes and minions. That was definitely a little bit iffy, so that is nice. Aurora improved the collision upon finishing her glacial charge animation. I'm not sure I noticed that even when I was playing her and doing that deck and guide. Crunch, this little tiny thing. Okay, Dekker here, this is a huge change, which depending on the wording is very strange. It could be gigantic or not. It could just be whatever. Now, containment fence is now a solid wall that only Dekker and her allies can pass through. Only Dekker or her allies could pass through it before anyway, so why did they say that? So did they say that for a reason? Now the language is now a solid wall. Well, before it was a circular wall. It was a circular fence, a cage. It was a kind of a cage with no top on it, right? It's a circular fence. But now they say it's a solid wall. A straight wall. Is it a straight wall that only Dekker and allies can pass through? Why did they say that? They couldn't do it before, so why say that now? Is it literally just a wall? If it is just a wall and not a circular fence anymore, that is, in my opinion, a huge nerf. Personally, I think that is a gigantic nerf. And you know what? Hopefully with the phase nerf, then like maybe that brings Dekker back. Maybe it was too powerful before, like before phase came in. Maybe Dekker was just too meta, too powerful for that. So I don't know. And also containment fence will no longer apply knockback, damage, or a stun. The damage was minimal. I mean, if you were caught, if the weird interaction where there was another wall, physical wall, and then the containment fence, you were stuck in there, you could like be knocked back and damage and stun the entire duration. Weird interaction. So maybe they just took that away entirely to eliminate that weird thing. So if this is a straight up wall, that is a gigantic nerf. Gideon was also tweaked here for some it's going to be interesting to see how this is affected. The initial pull was removed, straight up removed. So if you are at the edge, you can just pretty much straight up get out of there pretty darn quick. But now the steady pull has been increased. It has been increased by 50% from 300 to 450 units every 0.35 seconds. That is huge. 50% for that pull, I think, might mean that you can't get out of it. I think we move, base movement speed is 700, 800, 900, something like that. So 450 cuts that in half, so you're basically in half. No, but that's every 3-5 seconds. So in a whole second, that's 1,200 units. I don't know how that works. It's going to be interesting. It's pretty hard to get out of a Gideon pull anyways with that steady pull, like after that initial pull. It was pretty hard. So increasing by 50%, I'm really interested to know if you can even escape a Gideon black hole now. This next change here is simply for Grim, where he corrected an issue where his GTFO ability went on cooldown. If the animation was cancelled, then Deflect Shield was immediately activated afterwards. I'm liking that kind of the bugs with Grim are starting to get kind of nailed down, because it's really what's hurting him and his viability, I think, period. Now, this one here, I don't know if I like. Kallari. Shadow Walk Fade audio can now be heard by enemies. So the as she goes into the shadow plane can now be heard by enemies. All of this stuff kind of hurts Kallari in some small way. Casting Shadow Walk will now play a sound heard by both allies and enemies. Cheat Death audio will no longer play if Kallari is already in the shadow plane. That's fine. Because now, I mean, if the enemies are going to hear that she's going to the shadow plane, or like, that would only hurt her more. Like, if she was already in the shadow plane, then you're like, oh, she's still around and she's in this direction. You could just AoE and try to get her. Why? Like, I suppose, you know, when she's balanced and effective, I suppose you kind of want to know. You're like, oh, she's going to shadow plane, Sticky Mine. Or, oh, she's going to shadow plane, Obliterate. Which is freaking nerfed now, which I'm absolutely loving. And by the way, this is why I'm showing you this, my epic Revenant plays, because this the 3v1, like, for Pete's sake, it's like, just, ugh. Kallari, I don't know. I suppose when she is balanced, maybe this is going to give her, you know, give the enemies at least some bit of a chance. But it's going to be really interesting to see. I don't know. With Wraith coming out, man, Kallari. Ugh. Chimera has an interesting little tweak as well. Ambush now damages only the selected target rather than an AoE. He is very powerful. Maybe this is just a small tweak to kind of bring him back in line. I don't know. But the slow effect is now conditional upon that damage being dealt. So what this means to me is if you leap onto a target that teleblinks mid-leap, maybe the slow used to be applied, but now it doesn't. So when they come out of the blink, they're slowed. Like, they used to be slow, but now they're not. But I guess he would continually jump, like the blink would teleport him there. I don't know. So that's going to help. That's going to help with that slow not being overly too consistent. And the tooltip no longer states that it'll inflict AoE damage, of course. Morigesh got the nerf that she, in my opinion, needed. She is supposed to be... It's really difficult. She's supposed to be easy to play. Fine. But she is also supposed to just be balanced. She is intended to be an early game threat that obviously can then snowball into the mid game and therefore in the late game, but if the enemy team has an advantage to catch up, then she falls off. So she's supposed to be effective. She's supposed to be more effective in the early and mid game. So keeping that in mind, that she's supposed to be effective, but also easy to play, she's supposed to be easy to be effective in the early game. Now, that's great. However, there has to be a limit to that, right? She can't be too easy and too effective in the early game. She was. Period. Their data probably says that. My opinion is that. And yes, she's easy to play. Fine. Right? She's supposed to be effective. Great. She was just too much so. She was too much so in that perspective. So This I am absolutely completely fine with. Mark mana cost here in the early game, 75, now 90, and in the late game is the same. I like that she's sort of assassin-y. And Countess, you really have to be careful with her abilities in the early game, and Morigesh has now become that. Her abilities have been given more mana cost. The hive damage per dot tick is reduced here, 20% in the early game, and then in the late game, that's looking like 15% in the late game. So she was doing just too much damage with that tick. She could mark and hive you, and then run up, get one more mark, and then her ult, and then you're dead. Like, little bit ridiculous. I really like that change 100%. Hive mana cost from 80 in the early game up to 100. Just for that easy, consistent damage in the early game. I absolutely agree with that. And then 110 to 145 in the late game. I like it. It's a really impactful ability, and I'm okay with that. The Swarm mana cost, though, from 100 to 160 has been reduced to 80 at all levels. I actually like that. It gives her, it gives her the consistent. It gives her a consistent source, a consistent method of doing her thing. And with these changes, I kind of like that. Like, you have to give something back to her, and I think I like that. The Swarm, so she can have a good sustain and still have that early game pressure and presence. 100% agree. That is wonderful. Morigesh as a whole, nerfed. Love it. She was just too consistent, too prevalent, and this should hopefully help. Phase as well has been nerfed, and oh my, I'm so glad. So glad. She was way too easy, way too prevalent, and I just love it. Love it. Telekinetic link cast range decreased from 1900 to 1800. Absolutely 100% agree. Way too easy to get people from way too far away and pull them back. Just simple as that. Telekinetic link tether range decreased from 2500 to 2200. You could go way too far away from her and she would still have an influence. She should have some positional requirement to, you know, well, she already has that positional requirement, but has to be some trade-off. This helps with that. Telekinetic link total health regen decreased from 60, 90, 120, 150 to 48, 120. That is when you cast an ability. That is the health regen that that you get for that. So that's been decreased, but the health regen duration that gives is increased from 2 seconds to 4 seconds. So it's the amount of health regen that they get is reduced, and it's spread over a longer period of time. So total health regen, the total health regen, which is over that 2 seconds, is now reduced and is now spread over a longer period of time. I actually kind of like that. It seemed like it was a little too short. It was like a little burst, and I think her nature is more prolonged healing, and I actually really like that. The psychic flare blind duration decreased by pretty much half. Well, not really, by a third. 1.5 in the early game to 1.25, all the way up to 2 seconds instead of 3 seconds in the late game. 3 seconds, absolutely 100% way too long. Way too long. 3 seconds is more than enough time in the late game for anybody to take it, like pretty much almost anybody. Like, Ranger, 100%, just you're dead. It was just ridiculous. Absolutely just ridiculous. This is much better. Much better. 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, 2 seconds. Wonderful. Much better. Absolutely very, very nice. Now, the bug fixes, you know, the telekinetic link tooltip updated, the corrected the display issue caused by psychic flare on ultra-wide monitors. Didn't know that. Energy lance audio limited to 1 instance. So that's probably just the initial cast has the just, and then that's it. Correcting an issue which caused phase blind to function incorrectly when going in and out of the shadow plane. I'm not sure I ever had that. So phase for freaking... Finally. Nerfed. Another hero that you guys are seeing my highlights from, which I felt like an absolute god at when he first came out. Revenant has been decreased, has been nerfed as well. Obliterate ability now requires line of sight to lock onto a target. If a target, you have vision as they are behind a wall, you cannot use it, and it won't do a thing. If they are in line of sight and they move behind a wall, yeah, the projectile's still locked on and will now go there, but it was just absolutely way too consistent. Absolutely way too consistent. There was no... Once he had you, there was absolutely nothing he could do. Absolutely nothing. So like right there, that Narbash kill, I don't deserve that. I didn't use my obliterate early enough. I didn't choose to be like, no, I can keep basic attacking. I did not deserve that kill. From my perspective, I just didn't deserve it. Just straight up. They used terrain to get out of my influence. I don't deserve that. 100% love it. It's fantastic. The ability base damage reduced from 120 all the way up to 360 to 115 to 340. Very small. That is like, what is that? 7% decrease. Yeah, 7% decrease pretty much. Which is just gonna help. It just did way too much damage. These card scaling from 1.4 to 1.25. That in itself is whatever that is. That's a solid 10% decrease. So combine those two, probably looking like at least a 10% decrease there, which I think is absolutely fine. It just did way too much consistent damage, and it was just really, really dumb. The Scar mana cost has been increased from 40 to 50 in the early game, all the way up to 80 in the late game from 55. So it's just another too reliable thing that you could use too consistently, and this hopefully brings them back in line. I absolutely love it. You're gonna have to be much more precise and just calculated with Revenant, and that is okay. That is in his nature. You know, a duelist, you're supposed to be able to, you know, call the make the shot, be very precise with a duel, and know exactly when somebody else is going to do their thing, exactly when they're going to try to use terrain to their advantage. It's going to be much more calculated, and I think that suits his duelist 1v1 sort of dominant nature so much better. Absolutely love this change, 100%. There's a small thing here with steel that was absolutely infuriating when you're playing steel. Will now appropriately knock back enemies who are standing directly in front of steel when ability activates. There's a small little wind-up he does, and if somebody's right in front, I don't know, he didn't hit them. It was really infuriating. I'm really glad to see that is a thing now. Here is a change to Wukong. I kind of like. Staff Legend mana cost increased from 55 to 70 to 90 at all levels. Staff Legend cooldown, however, has been changed from 14/8 to 12 at all levels. So I like this. He had literally no mana cost. You had to be just a ridiculous split push monkey, just using every ability at all times to just be moving around the map like nobody's business to finally get rid of your mana pool. This I like. If he is doing his thing and is just running around a ton, if he'll actually end up having mana issues, and I think that is appropriate, just because he has little mana issues anyways. I really like it. The stuff like cooldown in the early game, yeah, it helps him just a bit, just a little bit, but in the late game, increasing that duration from 8 to 12, 50% increased cooldown. That's really going to help. It was really, you could use it a ton to you know, to either deal that damage or get away. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Here is another change in the card department anyways I really like. Stasis Gem, the price has been increased from 5 CP to 6. So now you get 1 CP of power, including the opportunity cost, leaving you a 6 CP cost. It costs 5 CP, but you're not getting 1 extra value. So kind of the cost of total value cost, I suppose, is 6 CP for that passive or active, and it's been increased by a third. The cooldown from 45 to 60 seconds. It was simply just way too easy, way too reliable. Hopefully this helps. 6 CP. Yeah, you gotta think about that. You gotta think about that. 5 CP. It'll just really help. Just help a little bit. I think it's still going to be very much prevalent, but it's not going to be as no-brainer of a card as before. I really like that. I would maybe like to see that a 75-second cooldown. But I mean, at this point, it kind of depends. Like each team fights are really only a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and 2.5 minutes in between each other. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that change? I think maybe it needs to increase the cooldown just a bit more, 75 seconds. But I think I would trust Epic's decision here a little bit more than my gut. Fantastic change there. And then the rest of these changes, not really very descriptive, so I can't really say much. Divine Shield now appropriately blocks Shockwave slow and damage. That's good. Not that you see Shockwave overly too much anyways. Tainted Magic will now correctly apply a damage over time effect from abilities. It's what it was supposed to do anyways, so it's just more consistent, perhaps? I don't know. Maybe what they're saying there, and that's what my initial thought was that it is correctly applied on, like, the passive for Tainted Magic is refreshed from damage over time abilities. So the tick on Morigesh's Hive will still continually refresh Tainted Magic. Maybe that's what it means, as that's what I think it should do. So I'm absolutely fine with that. Bounty Star now correctly stacks critical chance on basic attack. That's what it's supposed to do, so thank goodness it does that. So that's good. And Portal Stone no longer goes on cooldown if it's cancelled by an emote. I don't think I've ever seen a Portal Stone in my life. And then the rest of these changes here, talked way too much about this, is updated bot behavior. Bots now act more according to their roles. Yay! Finally! It's just a matter of time before bots can be better than humans, I hope. There's no reason why a computer can't be better than a human, so that's wonderful. The UI, they have 2 new difficulty settings for solo and co-op playlists. They've renamed them, so now there's star levels, changed from 3 to 5 based on difficulty settings. So that's good. Give more people options to train and just test things out. PC shortcuts for emotes, that's fine. Physical energy numbers no longer overlap. The floating eye icon on the shadow plane was pretty big, so that's good that they did that. Move the recall icon from the center of the screen to the bottom left of the screen. That's going to be nice. The respawn timer no longer overlaps with the buff bar. Reshape the respawn timer from diamond to a circle. Just makes it more nice. And a whole bunch of tutorial things, which is good because that is what the first people. That's what new players see when they first come into Paragon. So it's really important that is polished and looks great and is great for new players. So, and yes, finally, Phase's energy line should no longer cause hitches or erratic movements during replays corrected to crash that occurred when fast forwarding a replay from the draft lobby to the match. Yes, finally. I think this is what they mean. I hope that's when the I don't think, I mean, it doesn't say anything about the minimap, but the minimap not being present in a replay, I hope that's also changed. But anyways, finally, some things for the replay system. Finally. A whole bunch of stuff for this, guys. What do you guys think about this patch? I am so excited. Wukong, great to see that in here. Little things for everybody else. Revenant has been finally nerfed. He's just, Phase has been nerfed. Morigesh has been nerfed. Finally, this ridiculous meta. Ridiculous. It was really disheartening to see a Morigesh Phase Revenant in every game. Almost every game. Like, finally, I like diversity. I'm just so happy. I'm so happy, guys. What do you guys think of this patch? Let me know down in the comments, because I am so excited. What do you guys think? Ugh. Finally. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. If you guys like this content, especially if you found it useful, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. If you would like to support me and what I do on a regular basis, please consider going over to my Patreon account, where you can make a monthly pledge to support what I do and reap some pretty good rewards. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.